Hi friends. So I initially did this montage because I thought it would just be nice to start a video with just a simple, quiet, preparing a sourdough bread. And I'm listening to it and I'm a very heavy breather and it just sounds almost like we're watching some horror movie with the heavy breathing. So I thought I'd talk to you instead. I love making sourdough breads. This has become my absolute favorite thing to do in the kitchen. I'm not a good baker. I'm terrible at it because I don't measure, but I love making sourdoughs. It is something so rewarding when you do these specific measurements and you go to this work and you get a beautiful bread at the end. I'm obsessed with it. And sourdoughs are really not that hard. I've only been doing it a couple years and I've come a long way.
Hi friends, welcome back to Farm Girl Diaries. Today we're going to be doing a day in the kitchen and we're going to be doing a delicious fall feast that I'm very excited about. So I was getting my shower last night and I just thought butternut squash carbonara, Brussels sprouts, apple cider donuts, and sourdough bread sounds like the perfect Sunday meal. That's what we're going to make today. So I got my sourdough starter out last night. My plan last night was to feed him and make the dough so the dough could sit out all night. And I didn't do that. So I fed him this morning and he's been rising all morning. It is just before noon right now. And I want to make sourdough bread today. This was my plan. I'm gonna do it, but sourdough does take a long time. And I'm looking through my favorite book, Artisan Sourdough Made Simple. And I'm trying to find a bread that I could do and I could have for dinner tonight. And I found one that I've never made before. I'm doing these rolls. They're just soft. They're called soft share and tear rolls. I've never done these before, but I think I can do them by dinner time. They need to sit for 6 to 8 hours. I'm going to put them on my heat mat so that'll hopefully cut that time down quite a bit. And then I'm hoping I can have these for dinner. So we're going to see how this goes. So in the fridge right now, I have, how much? I have 240 grams of milk, 60 grams of water, and 28 grams of butter. I brought it up the temperature on the stove, melted the butter, and now I'm just letting it cool a little bit in the fridge while I talk to you guys. In the mixer, I have 1 egg, 200 grams of starter, and 24 grams of sugar. It does call for a stand mixer, so I did what it called for. And then I'm gonna add my milk and butter mixture into this. And then we are going to add our flour and get everything ready for it to rest and rise and do all that fun stuff. It is noon. I have plans to go to the Halloween store and to a thrift store today just for some fun to get out of the house. So I'll bring you guys along for that. But I want to get this bread going so it can be working while I am not here. So we'll get this guy mixing and we're going to add in our milk. Now I'm going to add 450 grams of flour. So this dough is still pretty wet. I'm gonna let it sit. I'm just gonna cover it. I'm gonna let it sit for half an hour, and then we're gonna come back and beat it one final time before it's bulk rise.
You want to let this dough beat with a dough hook for about 6 to 7 minutes. It does not come together in a ball, but it does work out in the end. Now you want to take some butter. I just used some stick butter that was straight from the fridge and I rubbed my bowl with it. And that just helps the dough, because it's such a sticky dough, as you can see, not stick to the bowl. I was really nervous when I did this that regardless of the greasing that I did, that this dough was going to really stick to the bowl. And that was not the case. It did not stick really bad at all. It came out quite easily. So I'm just going to dump this dough in the pan. I did let it rise for about 3 hours.
on a heat mat, 3 to 4 hours, and this worked out just fine. So I started this at noon, and I had dinner around 7. And the bread was ready before that. I just wasn't ready. So this did work out. If you haven't used a heat mat before, this is just a seedling heat mat that I got for starting my seeds. I actually just bought this one though specifically for sourdoughs, but it works out great to get your bread, give your bread a head start. Now we're going to Spirit Halloween. I don't know if these are across the nation. I assume they're across the nation, but these are such fun Halloween stores. Even if you're not in the market for a Halloween costume or Halloween decorations, they're just so fun to walk around in. I tried to video a little bit of this, and it was just too much going on. I couldn't do it all. But it's so super fun. They have it really set up with different attractions, almost things you can walk through, things that jump out at you. This is just a really fun Halloween activity that I like to do every year. You can see there's a big kind of attraction, tons of costumes, everything you could possibly need. Here there was a glimpse of the thing you walk through. It's like a castle that you walk through, and they just set it up so it's just a really fun Halloween experience, and I really enjoyed spending my time walking through this store, and I got that for one of my costumes. Okay, that was a very successful trip. I went in there not knowing what I wanted to be. Well, I had an idea. I originally was going to be Bo Peep, little Bo Peep, so that I could dress my dog up as a sheep. And I kept looking for like little Bo Peep costumes, and a lot of them, if not all of them, showed too much skin, or the ones that were like more modest, they were too expensive. I don't want to spend like $70, $80 on a costume. So I did find a costume much cheaper, and then I did come up with a costume for Sawyer because we're gonna match. We're having a Halloween party in 2 weeks, so I'm having a Halloween party in 2 weeks. Sawyer doesn't really care about it, but that was exciting. So I got my costume. I just gotta try it on and make sure it fits, and that's gonna be a secret. So you have to stay tuned for the Halloween vlog to see what I got. But I was excited, and that store is so fun to just go walk around and get inspiration and see what all I have. So we might come back one more time before Halloween because that was fun. Now to the thrift store. This used to be one of my favorite thrift stores, and it's not so much anymore, so I don't go as often as I used to. But what I really liked about it is it used to have all kinds of just thrifted items, and now it's really shifted more towards either kind of junk or brand new furniture, brand new decorations, brand new items. So it's not as much of a thrifting thing as I would like. But I did find that really cool fish board that I was so excited about that completely made my day. And I still had a really good time. So every now and then you can still find really good deals here. But I absolutely love thrifting. I love stumbling across something that you didn't know or expect that you were going to find. And I just think it's so fun. So you can see here, there's just a lot of stuff, some good, some kind of junk. But it just makes for a neat experience. So I enjoy going. Those plates, I have the bowl for them. So I almost got them, but I don't actually use the bowl anymore. But I thought it was fun that there was matching plates to my bowl. I just got back from the thrift store, and I am so excited. It was such a good thrift. And I only got this piece, but I am so excited. So what's funny is I watched Simple Life Alaska today, and they just bought a new cabin. In their cabin, they found something very similar to this. So I will post a picture here to show you what they found, and I remember watching it. So I was watching them, and they were washing this up, and I was thinking, like, that's super cool. What, like, a cool piece. And she used it as a cutting board, and I just saw it in the thrift store, and I, like, freaked out a little bit. I'm like, what are the chances? I just saw this on a video this morning, and I just found one in the thrift store, and I could not be more excited. So it does have what looks to be a little bit of a groove mark there. I'm going to try to use the magic eraser and try to clean that up as best as I can. And if I need to, I might sand it a little bit. I'm going to work on this right now. But this I'm planning on using it as my cheese board. I am a huge cheese board girl. I'm a huge charcuterie board. So I do everything from massive cheese boards to that include like meat and fruits and dips and nuts and like the whole thing. But sometimes I like to just do like cheese. And that's what this is going to be for. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So I'm having the Halloween party, but all of my other dishes are Halloween themed. And I'm like, I really, really want to put this out for Halloween. So I'm going to go ahead and get him cleaned up. But I am so excited.
So I gave him a really good wash, and you can see I will wash him a couple of times. When I started washing it, it really kind of started smelling like smoke, like cigarette smoke. So it must have lived in a smoking house before it came to me. So I washed it really well. I sanitized it. I did a lot to it to try to make sure it was as clean as possible and try to get that smoke smell out. So I spent a good amount of time washing him. And then I left him outside for the last 2 days. And hopefully it helped air him out. I have since re-washed him a couple of times, and I don't smell the smoke like I did before. So I'm not sure if it was in the wood or if it was in the brass, but it doesn't smell anymore.
Has kind of lightened him up a little bit. It is still a little wet, so we'll see what it looks like when it dries. You can see right there is that scratch. It doesn't look as bad, at least so far. It doesn't look as bad as it did when I first bought it. And there are some little like scuffs on the face that I couldn't get off. I tried using steel wool and I can't get them off. It's not like, I thought it was gonna be like glue on it, and it's not, so I don't really know what that is. I'm so excited. So I'm gonna go put him outside to air dry and hopefully de-smellify himself. We're gonna start our apple cider donuts. I don't know if you can tell. I don't think you can tell. My kitchen is very smoky. The recipe for the apple cider donuts calls for you to take, and I'll put the recipe link below, but it calls for you to to reduce your apple cider. So I put it on the stove, put it on low, and I thought I was letting it reduce. I looked out and I went and did some things. I looked up in the kitchen. It's been 15 minutes. Looked out and there's just a rolling pile of smoke coming off of the apple cider vinegar or apple cider. So I took it outside. It's now done smoking, but it has filled this house up with smoke and a very burnt smell. So that's lovely. So we are not going to be reducing the apple cider anymore. We are just going to plow ahead with putting the apple cider in the dish. Because I truly don't think the apple cider should have burnt like that. It should have just simmered away. And it didn't. It just burnt. So, I'm not reducing. We're just going to add it in. And everything's going to be just fine. So I have the pot on the stove. It has completely scorched the pot. I don't honestly know if I can save it. So I added some water to it, and I just have it on the stove trying to soak to see if I can save it. So we're going to start by mixing our dry ingredients for these donuts first. You need 2 cups of flour. I don't know if I have enough. It is annoying to fill these containers, I will admit. But I think it's even more annoying to like run out of flour when you need it. I need more flour, so let's get this filled. let's try this again. 2 cups of flour. Half a cup of brown sugar. Half a cup of white sugar. I will say, so I use white sugar for cooking and baking, and I use my raw sugar for things like tea and coffee, stuff like that. I've noticed that the cane sugar doesn't have the same sweetness that we're used to in the white sugar, and it just doesn't make things like desserts as sweet as you want them to be. So I still have my granulated sugar on hand for things like bacon. 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Just eyeballing it because my measuring spoons are dirty. And then 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Again, I'm just eyeballing it, which I shouldn't do, but we're fine.
This is exactly why my baked products do not come out that well.
I don't have any pumpkin pie or apple pie spice, so I'm just going to use pumpkin pie spice, just a little bit. It calls for 1 teaspoon. And this kind of sounds the same. So we're just going to use pumpkin pie spice, but if you have apple, use apple. And then 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay. Now you want to do our wet ingredients. So we need 1 egg. I have 2 tablespoons of butter in the microwave that I'm melting. 1 egg, and then we need 1.5 cups of your reduced apple cider. We're just using non-reduced. Not making that mistake again. Just gonna add our melted vanilla or melted butter, and then we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. My vanilla is still going. I'm gonna let it go for a little while longer.
It makes me laugh how much I do not measure, and this is why I cannot bake.
Pour into a different container and then start another batch. That is a cool trick to learn. I'm gonna fill it again with water, but this entire bottom was completely scorched, and you can see like there's still some pieces. I just filled it with water. And everything without any scraping, all of this came right off. So I see I just have a little bit left. So I'm just gonna fill it with some more water, put it back on the stove. I just have it on like a medium-low heat and let it boil away. And that's a great way to unscorch a pan without having to scrub. Love it. Okay, back to our donuts. So my dry ingredients are mixed together. Now I'm just going to mix my wets, and I'm going to combine it all together. So these donuts I make every year. I make them once a year, and they do make a good amount. I make mini donuts, but you can make the big donuts if you want. I actually don't like donuts, so that's exciting, right? I think I'm one of the only people in America that doesn't like donuts, but I like these, and I like the mini donuts. I also like the powdered mini donuts. I think it's something about the texture, like when you have the big normal size donuts. For me, it's too much texture. It's like too dense. So I have these super cute mini donut pans. Gave a quick wash. Super, super cute. These also freeze really well. So like I was saying, I make these once a year. They make a good amount. And then I freeze. These are things that need to get thrown in the garbage. Food that has gone bad. But these freeze really, really, really well. So I love making a whole big batch of these. And then putting them in the freezer. And then at some point, whether closer to Thanksgiving, maybe Christmas, maybe even after that, I'm in the mood for some apple cider donuts. I can just pull some out and eat at my pleasure. So I'm going to start with just some pan. They help them so they don't stick. I'm just going to ladle these into the muffin tins. I have the oven set at 375, and these actually will bake very quickly.
If you are making the mini muffins, just use a spoon. The ladle made such a mess right from the start. This recipe ended up making about 72 donuts, and because they're baked, they are a little chewier than a fried donut, but I thought they taste delicious. I then put half of these directly in the freezer, individually wrap them, and put them in the freezer for future eating.
Now in this bowl, I just have some white sugar and some cinnamon. Pop these guys off into this bowl.
To do this, I initially started with a fork, and then I quickly switched over to using just a sharp knife. And the knife worked really well, but what worked even better is letting these guys sit in this pan for about 4 to 5 minutes, and they came out of the pan much easier. So when I did the first tray, I struggled a little bit with this first tray, but when the second tray comes around to coming out of the pan, they just pop out so easily. So I highly recommend using a knife, just kind of start the process, but letting them sit for a little bit. And I don't know what it does, but it just does something that came out of the pan much easier. I put them in this bowl, and I did toss them around with some sugar and some brown sugar that tasted really delicious. The recipe called for, and I did this last year and didn't like it, but I almost wish I had done it with these donuts. The recipe calls for you to melt some butter and actually toss the donut in the butter and then the cinnamon and brown sugar. And last year I thought the butter gave it too much kind of a fat taste. It just gave it too much taste, maybe. I preferred last year without the butter, but this year I will say I was missing that butter, that fat component, and I do think that I either need to add some more butter to the batter for my liking, or I do need to maybe brush the top of these with some melted butter, just to give that more umami flavor, because it's just missing a little bit of that. I did share these with some people, and they thought they were delicious as is. So I think it's really all about your personal preference. Look how pretty they turn out. They're super cute, and just tossing them in this bowl, it did exactly, took 2 seconds, coated them beautifully, and that glaze, or not the glaze, but the sugar and the cinnamon stuck to the donut even after it cooled. So you technically don't need that butter mixture at all for the sugar to stick to the donut. I baked these at 375 for 8 minutes, and that worked well for my oven. I do know my oven runs a little cooler, so even though I said it's 375, it's probably not. So just make sure maybe you start a little bit lower, maybe at 6 minutes, and go from there. But these were delicious.
Okay, now we're gonna start on our bread dough. It has been 4 hours. So not quite the 6 to 8 hours that I recommended. I have had it on this heated pad the whole time, but it's sunny. It's almost done, at least. So I'm gonna roll it out, or I'm gonna pull it out onto my counter, my floured counter. And then I want to just kind of fold it into a rectangle, and I want to cut it into pieces where I'm going to get 12 pieces. Now I would prefer to do this in a cast iron dish, but I thought I'd use this dish instead. You just want a dish that's big enough that it holds 12 rolls. So I've never done this before. I've seen it though. Make a little ball and then make a little roll. These are a little bit different sizes, so that's okay. Okay, I got 12 in this pan, but some, like this one, are a lot bigger than like this one. but that's okay. I'm gonna put it back on my heat mat, cover it, and let it rise for another hour. The last round of donuts are coming out of the oven, so let's get them out and get the donuts taken care of. Now we're gonna make butternut squash carbonara. I swear my kitchen is the hardest kitchen to film in, because in the morning the sun's coming in from that window and you can't see anything because of that window, and now the sun is behind you and you still can't see anything. I'm sorry. This is just, I guess, how it is this time of year. Oops. So I have a butternut squash, and we're going to start peeling it to make our butternut squash carbonara. And I will say, peeling butternut squash is one of my least favorite tasks. But do you ever make up a really cool recipe and then you like find it somewhere else and you're like, you stole that from me? Ugh, I think there's gonna be more butternut squash peels on the floor than actually on my cutting board. Guess that is what it is, right? I made this butternut squash carbonara recipe up last year. I swear I made it up on my own. And I just saw it in a magazine recently, and it said, switch up your carbonara, add some roasted butternut squash to it. And I wanted to be like, you owe me royalties, because that was my recipe. And then just yesterday I was watching Food Network. I was watching The Kitchen, and last year for my Thanksgiving leftovers, I ended up throwing them into a pie, like making a chicken pie. And I threw like all the leftovers, and it was the world's best chicken. It was the best pie, best turkey pie. And I called it a Thanksgiving pie, and it's what I will forever do with all of my Thanksgiving leftovers. And when I tell you I added everything, I added stuffing, I added our gravy, I added our candied carrots, I added our candied sweet potatoes, I added our corn, I added everything. And it was delicious. So I'm watching The Kitchen yesterday, and Katie Lee said, you know what I love to do with my Thanksgiving leftovers? I love to throw it in a pie. And again, I was like, that was my recipe. I came up with it. So, I think someone in my brain is leaking my recipes and others are taking credit for it. Oh my gosh. If I ever get this butternut squash peeled, we're going to just roast it for about 40-45 minutes. My plan is get this roasted, and then when this comes out, the rolls can go in. And then while the rolls are baking, we will bake everything else. So carbonara is one of my favorite recipes. It's one of my favorite dishes for days when I don't feel like cooking, or I feel like I don't have anything in the house to cook with. Because all carbonara you need some sort of meat, like a ham, a pancetta. I use bacon, use prosciutto, some sort of meat. And then you need pasta and an egg and Parmesan cheese. Egg and Parmesan cheese. And that's it. And I always have all of those things on hand. So just with those few ingredients, you can make a delicious, comforting pasta dish. And today we're going to amp it up a little bit with this butternut squash. So I just want to, you can cut this in half and roast it in the half shell and then take it apart. I'm going to try. What I normally like to do is cut it in cubes, and then it roasts faster in the cubes. Whenever I'm doing butternut squash, I swear I wish I could just buy it from the grocery store already diced. It's when I really hate the life that I live that I refuse to do it. I won't allow myself that sweet, sweet pleasure. It is the worst. But we had such a great butternut squash year this year. I'm so happy. Last year I had only 3 butternut squash that I put down. So I had to really kind of ration them. This year, I don't have to ration them. I can do all the things with my butternut squash. And butternut squash is one of my favorite things. I do so many things with it, so you have to stay tuned because I have all of the fall meals with my butternut squash coming up. I'm just going to olive oil it and salt and pepper liberally. And I'm gonna put it in for about 40 to 45 minutes and check for doneness then. We want it soft enough because we're gonna puree it for our sauce. That was so yummy. So these have been in for 42 minutes and they're completely cooked the whole way through. However, I want them to have more of a roasted flavor, so we're gonna put them back in, but that's okay because we're gonna add our Brussels sprouts. So we canned these Brussels sprouts 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we're gonna try them for the first time. Oh my god, that smells so good. How do Brussels sprouts smell that good? I don't know, but they smell that good. So good. Okay. So I want to reserve this brine because I'm gonna turn it into a glaze for the Brussels. So I'm just going to strain out. Oh my god. When I tell you this smells like heaven, I don't know, Brussels, no one thinks Brussels smells good, but these smell good. So good. Okay. I put this to the side. I make these guys bread out. And I'm going to salt this. And I also want to bring this up to 400 for the bread. I'm going to salt my Brussels. My butternut squash needs a little bit of salt too. Okay, and let's throw this back in, and we're going to throw the bread in as well. So our bread looks beautiful. It says it's not going to be quite risen. You want it fluffy, but not risen. I think this looks like fluffy, not risen. So I do want to brush it with an egg wash to get it beautiful and golden. So let me move my brine. So I just had the egg whites here, and I kept the egg yolk. We're going to use the egg yolk in the carbonara, but I just want to use the egg wash for the top to get it nice and golden. Nothing I think I enjoy in the kitchen more than bacon bread. I love bacon bread. It makes me so happy. So this is going to go in the oven 400 degrees for 40 to 50 minutes. Now earlier we got our bacon out of the freezer, so I'm just going to go ahead and open this and chop some up. So all carbonara is if you're not familiar with it, it's a cured meat, bacon, prosciutto, ham, that you cook in the pan and you use the juices from the meats and the pasta water and an egg and Parmesan cheese, but that's it, to make the sauce for your pasta. So it's super, super easy. And like I said earlier, what I love about it is that you can do this with virtually no ingredients. Most people have, you know, egg and Parmesan cheese and pasta. Maybe not Parmesan cheese, but definitely bacon. And Parmesan cheese for me, I love to buy and freeze. And that way I always have Parmesan cheese. And Parmesan cheese freezes really well. So I'm just gonna start by taking, I think I did about 4 slices of bacon, and I'll put them in a hot skillet, and I wanna get them all nice and cooked up. At this point, you could add shallots or an onion or red onion if you want. I'm not going to today. No, we're not going to today. I'm just going to do the bacon. So I'm gonna let this fry. I'm gonna try another reduction and hopefully we have better success. I'm gonna take all of that Brussels sprout liquid and just put it on low and watch it like a hawk. I just want it to reduce, thicken up, and basically warm. And then we're gonna put it to the side to start our pasta. This dish comes together super, super quickly. So you wanna make sure you're watching all of the components. Can't see anything. So my bacon is all crispy and fried up. So I'm gonna take my butternut squash without making too much of a mess. I'm gonna add it to my pan. And this is something I really like to fight myself from eating right off the pan because it's that stinking good. Okay, we need to taste the Brussels sprouts and see how they are. And then we're gonna taste the butternut squash just because. I wanna see if these are done or if these need to go back in. Very, very good. Very, very good. I will 100% do more of those. My rolls are looking beautiful. Not individual anymore, but that's okay. Now let's try our butternut squash, just because. Oh. Beautiful little piece. I am good. Perfectly salted, perfectly peppered, perfectly roasted. So good. So I take my potato masher and I'm gonna mash my butternut squash in this pan. I'm gonna turn this on low and I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic because you need garlic in pasta. Now we need to go to the pantry to grab a couple of things to finish off this meal. Pasta water boiling away, so it's almost ready, and I'm gonna go with, I thought I grabbed spaghetti, but that's okay. I grabbed the fettuccine, so I'm just gonna go with the fettuccine, but you can go with whatever you want. Get my garlic stirred in, so she's cooking. Oh, my pasta water is just about boiling, so I'm gonna get my pasta in. I'm not Italian, so Italians, please don't judge me. Apparently that's a big no-no in the Italian culture. But how else do you get to fit in the pot? I don't understand. Let's do just a smidgen more. Next, we're gonna make the ingredients for our sauce for the pasta. So I just took that egg yolk and I added just that extra egg yolk. And if you don't have the egg yolk, you don't need just an egg yolk. I normally just use one egg, but I didn't want that egg going to waste. So I added my second egg. And then I'm just gonna add in some of my Parmesan cheese. And what you're doing is you're making like a paste almost. I have chunked Parmesan instead of shredded, but that's completely fine. Got some more. And what we have here is we have our cheese really heavily coated with our egg mixture. And we're gonna add that in with our pasta water, and that's just gonna make our creamy sauce. There is debate in the Italian world on whether you add cream to pasta carbonara or not. I have done it both ways. I have added cream and I've also not added cream. More often than not, I don't add some sort of cream, just because I think if you do it right, you can make the cream from the pasta water and your egg. So I don't know why I closed that. I am the proponent of don't add cream. So what we have in this cast iron is we have our bacon plus our bacon drippings. You do not want to strain out your bacon drippings. And then I added some garlic. The salt I think we're okay on. But I'm going to wait for my pasta to be done cooking. And then I'm going to add some of this starchy pasta water in with this and the egg to make our yummy, yummy sauce. But while we're waiting for my pasta to be done, let's go ahead and make our Brussels sprouts. Okay. So this is my favorite way to have Brussels sprouts. I make almost like kind of a casserole out of them. So the pasta is just about cooked, but I want to let it sit in the pasta water while I do all of this, and this way it doesn't overcook. So I'm going to take some of that starchy pasta water, and I'm going to add it into our eggs and our cheese mixture. I just want to do a little bit at first, kind of temper, because you don't want your eggs to cook. And this, you're doing this to temper your eggs. When we add them into here, our eggs don't cook. Okay. And then we're going to add in some more pasta water just to make this beautiful sauce. I am making such a mess. You can see here we have our luxurious sauce. Now we're going to go and we're going to add our perfectly cooked pasta directly in to here. Now I want to give this a taste and check for its flavorings. So yummy. It does need more salt, so let's add some more salt. That might have been too much salt. So the rolls came out. They look delicious. You can see they are one solid roll now. So I'm gonna let them sit, but let's top our pasta. I'm really bad at picking bowl sizes today. They're not even close to the right size. top with some more Parmesan. And that looks like a dinner fit for the kings. My roll fell apart a little bit, but that's okay. I should have let it sit longer, and I didn't. But I'm hungry. I'm actually not hungry. I feel like I've spent all day making this dinner, and now I'm just tired. So let's get a little bit of that. And some Brussels sprouts that I did with some cranberries and some pine nuts, and then topped with some feta cheese. Well, this is a meal I'm excited to eat. It smells so good. Thank you guys for joining me. Oh, I can't forget the donuts. I don't have any donuts on my plate. Okay. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you guys on the next video.